Hello to my patrons and the people who waited a year. This is the episode where I have to sing, and sing I shall. Fully improvised, and we have a sponsored topic today, so I am mega super mondo crazy excited to do this. Let me get that thumbnail, me just like belting it. There we go. Look at me just singing away. I will have you know, there won't be any musical accompaniment. I'll get into that later. But, I do have a friend who's very good at musical improv and can play the piano. At some point, I would like to do this episode again, but as a fully improvised musical with accompaniment, but that's not going to be today. But yeah, you'll find out what today is, and so will I. It's been a rough day. I'm recording this very late, and I hope it gets up on time. Let me think of an opening line. This doctor dances. That's not a good opening line. It should be about singing. La 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 la. That's a better one. I don't usually do it over, but I couldn't think of a Doctor Who musical reference fast enough, even though like 2 episodes in the most recent season have been pretty musical. Just couldn't think of one. Anyway, this one's about Doctor Who. You're not supposed to know that yet. Oops. This is where the theme song goes. I think my roommate's taking a shower. That's fine. I'm just glad to have a roommate who's okay with a podcast being recorded every week, especially one as nutty as this. You're listening to Fix My Carcast, hosted by Bear Claw Billy, and this is episode 153. Comedian and musician Keith Hebert will join us as soon as he hits a high C. But first, housekeeping. This is the show where you pick what I say and how I say it. Pick a topic or prompt by donating to the GoFundMe, and vote on the gimmick by joining my Patreon for just $1 a month. Join at the $5 or higher level and also get bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes footage. Links are in the description. Also down there, merch. Get yourself some merch. Look, I know Wicked's hot right now and you want to get a Wicked shirt, but like, they've got your money. They're fine. You know who needs your money? Bear Claw Billy, that's who. Get a Fix My Carcast shirt, and then maybe next paycheck, get the Wicked shirt. Definitely get that Wicked shirt. I still haven't seen Wicked. I need someone to take me to see it. Anyway, let's not talk about that right now. No new donors this week. The total raised for paying off my car repair debt is holding at $2,392. Also, when we get to $3,000, it unlocks an automatic show gimmick, which is I will record an episode at sea. As soon as I'm medically cleared as seaworthy. I can't forget that addendum now, can I? Fun fact, did you know that this whole podcast disappears when we hit $10,000? Just fade it out at the end. Hey, do you like the theme song? No? Well, if you make a donation of $50 or more, in addition to picking an episode topic, you get to change one thing about the theme song forever. Unless somebody else changes it back. Want me to sing? I'll do it. $50. Also, if you'd like to own the painting I made in episode 118, I'll be giving it away to the next person who donates $100 or more. That's right, own a piece of Fix My Carcast history while you still can. If you'd like to see the painting before you buy it, it can be viewed in the raw video version of episode 118 over on Patreon. Link in the description. Fun fact, I've sold 0 paintings in my lifetime, but if you buy this one, I'll be tied with Van Gogh. Oh, and the painting's in the room. I mean, I tell you that every week. You don't need to know that. No new patrons this week. Bummer. Now it's time for a topic suggestion. I'll suggest topics I think I could easily talk about for a whole episode, though admittedly, I think the show is more fun when it's something I'm completely clueless about. So, something I could talk about is the movie Yesterday, which I've never seen. Or the movie 4 Weddings and a Funeral, which I've never seen. Or the movie Starry Night, which I have seen. Want to know more? Donate today. checking in on the best city in the world based on which city listened to the last episode the most, and we've got us another singles night tie. Ties are broken by whichever city listened to the most episodes, and our big winner is Portland, Maine. Congratulations, Portland, Maine. Let it be known that your Grand Ole Opry, Ryman Auditorium, and RCA Studio B are the best in the world for 7 days. Last episode, I talked about the best Bond girl while eating some Jell-O. You can see video of all the raw footage plus a little extra over on Patreon. Also, head over to Patreon for a bonus episode where I talk about making a podcast in a hospital. It's been a rough time, but go check that out and find out what it's been like for me. Okay. Let's talk next week's gimmick poll. These are your choices for next week's episode gimmick. They are: do it like a Christmas movie, make a Christmas card, incorporate 25 Christmas song titles, and our returning gimmick, incorporate 25 periodic table elements. That last one's not so holly jolly, but it's up to you, the will of the people. Let's review. Number 1, do it like a Christmas movie. I will try to pack as many Christmas movie tropes as I can into a single episode of Fix My Carcast, just for you, though it ain't the Christmas special. You'll find out what that is coming up. Number 2, make a Christmas card. Pretty simple. I'll make a Christmas card. I have a bunch of art supplies here, and I will make a Christmas card. But who will I send it to? If you sponsor that episode, maybe you? Who knows? Let's find out. Number 3, incorporate 25 Christmas song titles. I'll tell you right off the bat, this one's going to be hard. I did not grow up with Christmas music. I feel like I know a lot of pop, and I know a lot of pop stars have covered a lot of Christmas songs, so I'll do my best, but I'll have to fit 25 Christmas song titles into that episode if that one wins. And our returning gimmick number 4, incorporate 25 periodic table elements. Any element that shows up on the periodic table, I will have to say the name of 25 of them if that one wins. So let's see. Vote your heart, vote your conscience, vote early, vote often. Remember that any gimmick that gets just a single vote is eligible for a second chance in 6 weeks. Be sure to vote over on Patreon. The poll closes Thursday, December 12th at noon Eastern America time. All right, time for today's gimmick, which is sing every word. Now, just some ground rules. There will be no live instrumental accompaniment or music added in post. The words I sing will be fully improvised. I have notes on today's topic, but none of them are lyrics. In case anyone cares, I'm holding up to the camera. These aren't lyrics, these are just notes on the topic. Okay? And you can debate what counts as singing in the comments. Of course, gimmicks don't start until housekeeping is out of the way in case any of them prevent me from sharing vital information. But now we are entering the gimmick zone. From this point on, gimmicks are active and everything is improvised. Today's topic is from Beth for $25, and it's a surprise. I've been asked to talk about my controversial opinion on Doctor Who. Will I get roasted like a delicious onion, because nothing rhymes with opinion except maybe rack and pinion, which is a kind of steering, but who fucking cares, because a TARDIS ain't got one, no. Let's get to my notes, because I've got to tell you a scorching hot take. Maybe you'll agree, or maybe you'll eat me like a cake. Here we go on my hot take. I don't like an episode of Doctor Who. You might agree with me, but I'm not sure that's true. You see, this is an episode that many people seem to love, but I don't like it for a couple of reasons, and because of that, you can shove. So, gather round, open your ears, and listen to what I've to say. Because the episode, Season 5, Episode 10, is the episode I'm discussing today. Vincent and the Doctor, Vincent and the Doctor. Why doesn't Billy like Vincent and the Doctor? Well, first of all, you must know I almost forgot. But if you haven't seen Vincent and the Doctor Season 5, Episode 10, I'm going to spoil the plot. There's no rule that says I can't pause as long as each word is sung. So you might think this episode's not great. It might be a pile of dung. But here's an episode that I don't quite think is such a pile of shit, but I maybe have one or two issues with the framing of it. I'm going to tell you what happens in Vincent and the Doc. So, if you don't want this episode spoiled, then suck my spoiler warning. Spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. Here comes the spoiler. I'm going to tell you the entire goddamn plot. So, if you want to hear this episode but haven't seen this, I would not. Okay, Vincent and the Doctor, it's a Matt Smith. Vincent and the Doctor, it gets me pissed. Vincent and the Doctor is with Matt Smith and Amy Pond. And in case you're wondering, she's a redhead, she's not blonde. She is played by Karen Gillan, and the Doctor is played by Matt Smith. Also, Bill Nye is here, not the science guy. Forthwith. Also in this episode, there's a man named Tony Curran, and I have no criticism of his performance. He did the best he can. So, the episode opens up in a lovely museum of art, and the Doctor notices a monster in one of the paintings and takes off with a start. You see, Vincent van Gogh is being plagued by an invisible beast, and the Doctor and Amy make great haste to reduce it to the least. The episode makes it very well known that Vincent van Gogh was sad, and it tries to put a positive spin on mental health issues, and it's bad. Okay, that's maybe a little harsh. I wouldn't say it's fully shit, but I take issue with some of the statements made in it. So, off they go, back in time to meet Vincent van Gogh. The Doctor is fascinated by him, and Amy wants to get off. She's got a crush on this ginger man, and she really likes his art, but it is bad to meddle in time, so she cannot give him his heart. Something's killing people in the village, and no one knows what it is. But that's okay, because mysteries happen to be the Doctor's biz, so they go into town and look for the beast, but they cannot seem to find it. The Doctor turns on a weird little gizmo, and oh my god, it's right behind it. So the Doctor knows that the beast is real, but only Vincent sees it. And they need to look out because they might get snacked on like a Cheez-It. So the Doctor and Amy and Vincent go to a lovely little church nearby, and they wait for the monster, but there's a twist, it'll make you cry. It turns out the monster isn't eating people, the monster is actually blind, so it's only attacking in self-defense, so I guess we should leave it behind. But oops, Vincent picked up his easel and stabbed it right in the gut. And the Doctor feels bad, whoop-de-fucking-do. Let me tell you what. There is a scene where the Doctor mourns that the monster had to die, but to be completely honest, it was kind of underwritten and it didn't need to be here for the sci-fi. If you want to go back into time and meet Vincent van Gogh, I recommend a better use of your time is to turn your head and cough. Because if you want to make an episode where you meet a painter, you don't need a monster too. I know that's typically something that you see on a show called Doctor Who, but the monster feels like an afterthought and also a metaphor for Vincent's brain. So I feel like it's dangerous to compare illness to a monster. That's insane. Maybe a word that we're not supposed to use, but I understand the consequences, and it's very hard to rhyme. But let's get back to this wonderful show about a police box that goes through time. I feel like I'm doing the same melody over and over again. I'm gonna have to think of something new. Gotta think of something new. Ha 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 ha! Laughter is still singing. Anyway, after this episode, my ears are surely ringing. It's very hard to talk about all the things that you want to mention in the show when you have to sing every single word, not unlike something like so. So the monster is dead. And Vincent is okay, and they're very, very careful not to change the fabric of reality. Fuck. Fuck. But it's worth pointing out that the episode does recognize Vincent's mental abnormality. He sees color in a special way, and isn't that pretty and fun? But comparing him to a monster, well, I think that's kind of dumb. Vincent points out that the villagers and children shun him like they shun the creature. And for Vincent, his ability to see these colors isn't bug, it's a feature. I will fully admit, I don't mind everything that's happened so far. But the way that this particular episode ends, I think it's a falling star, because I almost rhymed far with far. I almost rhymed far with far. My problem is when the day is saved, Vincent seems ever so glad. And so the Doctor and Amy return to the present. And this is where I think it is bad. The Doctor decides to bring Vincent back to the present day. And he gets to talk to Bill Nighy Professor about his particular way. Vincent van Gogh never knew that he was a painter of great fame and acclaim. And so they take him to see the museum, but when they drop him off, it's the same. Amy excitedly runs back upstairs, expecting to see brand new art. But what she meets instead is something that breaks the audience's heart. You see, it turns out that VVG still succumbs to his ideation. And unfortunately, this means that not a single new artistic creation appears in the museum like a ripple Marty McFly. As a matter of fact, nothing has changed on the very same date he will die. Now, the Doctor says that this is normal. Every life has both bad and good. And just because his life was so hard doesn't mean that we did what we should. But here's an issue I have with this tale. The Doctor is ever so careful. And if I get into my issues with this episode, you best be loaded for a bearful. The Doctor is often so cautious to not disrupt the fabric of time. But in this case, I think he's mistaken. When he sees a hill, he must climb. Throughout the parts of the episode that we see that are back in the past, the Doctor repeatedly mentions it's very important for Vincent to last. For if Vincent dies in his most prolific year, then all of his art goes away. And we can't have that, so we must be careful not to harm Vincent this day. But suddenly, it's completely all right to bring him back to the future and show him the fame that he once will accrue. And he thinks that this is a suture. It will make Vincent feel so much better about his wonderful creative life. And it will also deprive him of a hot little redhead to be his little hot redhead wife. For the paintings have changed. This is true. The Doctor has changed the past. For now, one painting is signed to Amy, and the monster is gone at last. But again, there are no extra paintings. But that's okay because they made Vinny smile. But I take issue with this plot point because it's sappy and made for a child. Here's where we come to specific problems I have with the episode's scribe. I think it's weird to put such a focus on Vincent and his need to survive. For you see, if doing something bad to Vincent fucks up the timeline, then why would you assume that something good for Vincent wouldn't be the same sort of crime? Taking a man into the future to show him his incredible fame? To me, that would drive me bonkers. I would find that quite lame. So no, Doctor Who, excuse me, the Doc, I have a problem with this. You think you can show someone that they'll be famous and they'll go back and not get pissed? If I were writing this episode, VVG would think it's a dream. If I knew that I died penniless, but one day would be famous, I'd scream. That would fuck me up. That would bring me no comfort. I'd weep until I died. But according to the Doctor, this is a good thing. Let's show Vince the sunny side. Well, I don't agree. I find it both sappy and also a terrible idea. Granted, I get that things are all wibbly wobbly. The Doctor's been here. As a character, I'd say the Doc, bless his sweet, sweet hearts. I know that he is an agent of chaos, and every so often he sharts. There are plenty of episodes. Poems aren't singing, I know. But let me tell you this one thing about it that I think really blows. I think the Doctor is being so reckless. What the hell, man? How are you so feckless? We get it. You bounce around doing what's fun, but every so often, there's work to be done. You've got to preserve the fabric of the realm. And the way you do it often causes companions to be quite overwhelmed. I think you should think when you time travel. Otherwise, space and time will surely unravel. You need to be cautious when you get inside that box. I know you think you're handsome. To be quite honest, you're a fox. But that doesn't give you a right to play with the lives of other people, even if you have a fancy machine that lets you give them a sequel. I think it's a horrible idea to bring Vincent to the museum, to rip him through time, and to discover there are paintings he hasn't even made. He can see them. And I am upset. I don't think this is the way you should bounce through the portal. And when people say this is one of the best episodes of Doctor Who, I chortle because I don't like it. I don't like it. And that's perfectly okay. I don't like it. I don't like it. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Every few months, someone brings up how beautiful that scene is. Damn it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy seeing it. It feels like a slap in the penis. But that's okay. I'm still glad they wrote it, but I think it's kind of weird. And Beth gave me $25 and I've got some research right here. I didn't just rewatch the Doctor Who episode, I also watched a movie. And once you find out which film I watched, I think you'll find my logic quite groovy. For you see, this episode is by Richard Curtis, a director of great notoriety. But I've got to say, when he fucks with time, I'm not a fan of that variety. For you see, I watched About Time, a film I saw long ago. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine remembers that I looked like a gasket would blow. I did not appreciate the film About Time because I think it breaks its own rules, and while I don't think Doctor Who necessarily violates anything, it is cruel, you see. Richard Curtis wrote this episode because he's obsessed with the painter, but the more you look into his reasons for writing it, they get much fainter and fainter. Richard Curtis is obsessed with one Vincent van Gogh, and said, and I know that I have the quote here, something that pissed me right off. In an interview, Curtis laments that he never got a taste of fame and, quote, "It was that thought which initially made me wonder whether or not we could time travel to put that right. You can't, lame." I just think it's kind of weird to write historical fanfic. If I tried to write something about my heroes, I know I would surely panic. But Curtis loves his VVG, so I get why he wrote this piece. But if you're gonna do that, you need more story than just running into Vincent at least. I feel like the monster wasn't creative and it's kind of just an afterthought. When you have a monster in your Doctor Who episode, it's typically not the B plot. But Curtis asked for help when he wrote this script. He needed a friend or two. So he added more elements to make it feel more like an episode of Doctor Who. But the episode, which came out in 2010, was his first foray into time travel, unless you count the Doctor Who thing he wrote for comic relief, but that unravels. It's a comedic piece. It is purely satire. It's only meant for a laugh. But this episode about Vincent van Gogh is dramatic and a fucking half. To date, the only episode that Curtis ever wrote of a show called Doctor Who, but after he wrote it, he wrote About Time, and he wrote Yesterday too. I only learned recently that he wrote the Van Gogh episode. I did know that he wrote About Time, and that's why I boycotted that chode. My apologies to Richard Curtis. I haven't seen 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Fuck. But I'd like to check it out if someone sponsors me to watch it. I think that will be for a lovely numeral. If you sponsor me, I will watch 4 Weddings, or I will watch Yesterday, or I could also watch Starry Night, which has the same premise, but is a better play. Starry Night is a VHS that I found in a bargain bin. And it's a really silly episode, but it's similar to this. And I think it's worth seeing what's within. It starts from the very same premise that Van Gogh never learned of his fame. But he decides to heist his own work. And that's really cool. That's not lame. It's a comedic take on the fact that Van Gogh doesn't know his own legacy. It's very silly, and I haven't watched it in a couple decades, but I'll do it if you give me the money. That was a slant rhyme. That was a slant rhyme. That was a slant crime. Let's get back to time. So, Richard Curtis, I think you make good movies. I am a fan of Love Actually. But I feel like if you're gonna write more stuff about time travel, just try to do it factually. As far as I can tell, he obeyed the rules of history, but not the rules of space and time. In the movie About Time, it is a plot point that you can't just travel on a dime. If you have children and you go back before those children were born, well, Bill Nighy, who's also in About Time, will give you quite an amount of scorn. They make it a plot point that you can't go back too far or you'll unmake people. Shit. But then randomly he goes back to when he was a kid. No wonder this film has no sequel. I did that twice. I did it twice. I did it twice. Yes, I definitely did that rhyme twice. There's no price. But I did that fucking rhyme twice. Well, I think that I have said all that I have got to say about Vincent and the Doc Season 5. That's episode 10. I still love the show, and I'm glad that we get to see Shooty thrive. I love Doctor Who, and I'm quite a big fan, and I look forward to watching much more. But if you take a look, it's bigger on the inside if you open the door. I hope I haven't broken any Whovians' hearts. I want you to know I love you. But this is my scorching hot take on a show from the BBC called Doctor Who. As always, don't be afraid to be a controversial sort. Just do it for years. Make a podcast of it. And be my willing cohort. Woo! Boy, about halfway through, I realized you're just doing poems. You're not singing some of these. If you guys want to ding me on it, absolutely do. I did my best. I don't know if I got in all the plot points that I wanted to bring up. I'll definitely do a non-singing version of this on the bonus episode. I promise you that. I took way too many notes on About Time, and I almost didn't bring it up at all because I wasn't sponsored to talk about it. But Beth, you gave me $25. $25 gets you a little effort. So rewatched the episode, looked up interviews about it, watched About Time. Hope that was enough for you. I hope my singing wasn't too bad. Good night, everybody.